So I'm sitting here, browsing the web for certain secrets about something again, and this one revolves around a particular decade, one of much significance. The 20s, a date that stands out in American history like no other. Old traditions were left behind and new ones were picked up. This decade bloomed with vast popular culture and new ideas, and thus earned a very fitting nickname in history. To me, the 20s just has this look, popular opinion here. I really think the popular culture of the 20s really defined the decade. I mean, you can look at it any way you want. You can look at it as a recovery from wartime, an increase in consumer spending, but really it's just, the 20s just has this look. I can look at something, look at a picture from the decade, and I know it's the 20s. The Roaring 20s loved clothes of varying styles. The popular one for females was known as the flapper style. As our background knowledge has it, flappers were young women during the decade who defied social restrictions and traditions. They were commonly considered to be a new breed of women. As rapid generalization would have it, flappers would wear a slim dress that was generally shapeless, bob their hair in a short fashion, etc. With flappers and in women's fashion trend as a whole, you would see pearls, cloche hats, beaded bags, etc. You typically see men in sleek suits with probably nice hats. Nice clothes were the norm, just classy clothing in general. One of the top fashion companies, Donnelly Garment Company, originated from Kansas City, thus originated from the city extra buttons, shoulder pads, and countless other new fashions. Okay, that, it was okay, but there's gotta be some juicier stuff in here. Oh, there's more. Now, you're probably wondering, what was the 20s' favorite entertainment? Sports? Music? Yeah, I know you were. You see, the 20s didn't really have a favorite. There was music, there was sports, you name it. It liked all the entertainment. And, movies even arose during this time. Movies, huge part of the entertainment industry today, but here you begin to see them rise in popularity. Charlie Chaplin, for example. He made his rise to fame in the 20s. The guy in all the silent films? Yeah, that's him. Spectator sports, Babe Ruth, baseball, you were in the stands. That was just a thing in the 20s. Music, you had jazz, you had Kansas City jazz artists, Count Basie, Charlie Parker, Mary Lou Williams, you name it. And books, books became a huge part of the entertainment industry in the 20s. You had famous authors such as Langston Hughes or Ernest Hemingway, who even spent time in Kansas City. And along with that, you had the record chart, the radio. I mean, the 20s was just a big decade for entertainment.
Now when the Saints go marching in.
Okay, so in the 20s, there was this thing called Prohibition, and it basically banned all alcoholic beverages, and people didn't like that, so pretty much they had establishing things called speakeasies, and speakeasies were they could be disguised as soda shops and cafes and social clubs, just any generic everyday business, and people would go there to secretly drink. I mean, speakeasies were established because people wanted to drink. They didn't agree with Prohibition. I mean, most people just didn't. It's like if your parents today weren't allowed to drink. I mean, I assume they drink. I don't know where I'm going with this. Okay. Perspective time. Okay, so imagine this, if you will. So you're living in the 1920s, and you like to get a drink with your pals every once in a while. You just like a good beer, you get some whiskey. I don't know, you alcoholic beverages. And suddenly, there's this big constitutional ban on the production, transportation, and consumption of them in the first place. And you don't agree with that. And other people don't agree with that. So they establish these hidden areas, these secret places that you can drink. And it was not uncommon at all, as speakeasies were everywhere. Okay, so I know what you're thinking. What were some well-known speakeasies in Kansas City? Look, I'm sorry if you don't live here, but rubric. Well, a really well-known one was Green Lady Lounge. Let's see. Yeah, you also had the Hotel Phillips. Yeah, I've heard of that one. Manifesto, Wrap Up. Yeah, there were lots. Okay, yeah. Enough about speakeasies and Prohibition. What were some famous landmarks during the 1920s? Specifically New York, Roaring 20s New York, they coincide pretty well. Well, I know there was the Campbell Apartments. That was the former office of Joseph Campbell, the writer we talked about earlier. There was also a Carnegie Hall, which was built by the philanthropist Andrew Carnegie in 1891. It hosted countless symphonies and lots of jazz concerts. And finally, wrapping this up, two famous Kansas Cityans from the 1920s. Well, first listed is Charlie Parker. He's a revolutionary musician from Kansas City. He was known for the creation of bebop and other things. And pretty insanely. Walt Disney, yeah, he had a studio here in Kansas City before he started making his cartoons and such, and even maybe started. So that's pretty insane. So the quote I have chosen to describe the 20s, and it's also one that I think describes today and countless other generations and decades, it's never too late to be whoever you want to be. And that was said by Francis Scott Fitzgerald, and he's the author of The Great Gatsby and other American novels and classics from the 20s. And, you know, I really think that really suits the decade pretty well, because no matter how old you are, no matter what you want to do, there's always room for change and finding new parts of yourself. And if there's one thing the 20s showed us, it's that things can change. So, funny fun fact here. I was very disappointed to figure out that the people in the 20s didn't actually see in black and white. No, I didn't just figure that out, but I mean, come on. When I imagine a first person view in the 20s, I think of this.